you want to start?
I love how you do that.
Alright.
Hey, my name is Keith.
And I'm his brother Mason.
And this is the And His Brother podcast. Today we got Tyler and Dylan Greene. They are also brothers.
That'd be really awkward if we weren't, but
Thank you.
I think it still works.
Like the matching, you could be a little couple.
didn't try it.
We actually just found these guys today.
They're just walking by and I'm like, hey, you're on a podcast.
You guys are both white. You look like brothers.
Nice and simple. Okay. But yeah, these are two of our lifelong friends that we've known probably going on
Third grade.
15, 20 years.
Third grade for y'all.
What, 17-ish?
17-ish.
We're 11.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Our friendship can almost vote.
Our friendship can almost vote. But yeah, they're lifelong friends of ours. Grew up with them. They're very dear to our hearts, and why not throw them on the And His Brother pod?
Yeah. So today we're just gonna have a conversation, see where it goes, and thanks for joining. Cool. And there's a little like intro thing that we have.
Okay.
That's what that was.
Yeah, I was like,
No, it's okay. Yeah, actually.
So we've lost a brother, unfortunately, and we paddled across the now.
Alright. Mason changed his water bottle, so like.
Yeah, nothing happened.
Seamless.
Transitions. Professional. Yeah. I don't really care which one of y'all starts. Tell us about yourselves.
Oh, I'm
Age
alright.
before beauty.
Currently, I am about to be 28. Currently, flight training to become a pilot. That's tough.
Fighter pilot?
Expensive. I wish. I'm not that good. Like, I'd love to be a race car driver, but I can never be an F1 driver, and that's how I feel about like piloting. Like, I could do it well, but I couldn't be like the top of the top.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like,
I'm not that.
literal pressure on you. It's a lot. I don't know that I'd want to deal with that all the time. But yeah, it's an interesting process. Not a lot of people do it, but once you get into that community,
Community. Reference last episode.
yeah,
Click
Yeah,
right here if you want to
it
see.
like explodes. Once you meet like one person, you start meeting everyone in
Yeah.
aviation,
Yeah.
and then it's really cool to
That is
see that like,
yeah,
niche
like,
little
yeah.
world that no one knows about until you're in it.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Well, I'm Tyler. I just turned 25, just a quarter century, which is weird, I will say. And I'm currently a reporter for a TV station, for the ABC affiliate station in Abilene, Texas. It's a very interesting job, I will say. Never thought I'd be on TV. It's kind of weird.
Local celebrity.
It's Abilene.
He's the most famous of all 100.
Yeah.
But I just kind of wanted to do as I grew up. I want to go into sports broadcasting or sports reporting, and I'm kind of starting to get into that. But I figured a reason I wanted to do it was because I talk about sports enough. So I was like, why not get paid to talk about sports? It's a career. I mean, it's possible. So I'm like, if you love what you do, it doesn't feel like you work a day in your life. And that's kind of the mentality I went going into that. So yeah,
That's real. Something that I hadn't actually thought for either of you. Do you need a degree to do each of your respective? I know you need like trainings and certificates and stuff. I don't know if you need a degree. Like I don't know how it works.
So as of now, no, because there's a massive pilot shortage right now in the airlines.
Oh.
So the airlines, the U.S. airlines just dropped their 4-year degree requirement.
What's U.S. Airlines? Is that just like the general like?
Yeah, like air carriers that are based in the United States.
Oh,
so like
okay.
Southwest, Delta, American Airlines, Hawaiian.
Spirit?
Americans.
Yeah, Spirit.
Americans and American.
Yeah.
I would hope so.
And so they just dropped that, but obviously could bring it back if there's too many pilots at any point. But we have no idea where that's headed right now. We just know there's a massive shortage.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I realized I was like, oh, I don't know, because I knew, or in my brain it made sense, like, as long as you trained, sort of like driving, right? Like, as long as you trained in the specific thing, I was like, I could see how they wouldn't require a degree.
So to be an airline pilot, you have
You
to
have
also
hours and
reach
stuff.
1,500 hours, and that's to get your ATP certificate, which is your air transport pilot.
Okay.
So unless you're at those 1,500 hours, you're not able to attempt to get that rating.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Yeah. So
Pretty
it's
good.
kind of nice. And
That's
the
good.
U.S. has the highest standards in the world.
One
So
five, some of you is less.
we're technically the best pilots, so we have like the least amount of accidents.
You
and
heard it
stats
here
and stuff.
first.
Yeah.
I said we're technically.
Technically,
Some of
yeah.
us suck.
It's
But
not
as an
that
arching.
great, but like,
I'm surprised
Majority.
there's not more accidents, but you know, we'll take it.
That almost worries me actually.
I am fighting everywhere now.
Just everywhere you fly, it's like, how many hours do you have?
Show me your walk onto the plane and be like,
Show
can I
me
see
your
the
logbook,
guys. What's your total time?
And then time for.
So I don't know if you technically need a degree. I know it certainly helps because I know, and then I've actually met colleagues that don't have a degree in broadcasting or journalism.
Yeah.
They just kind of gone into it, which is very interesting because I'm like, why did you do that? Which is like, if you're gonna go to school for like that, and then you're just gonna go into broadcasting, it's a very interesting dynamic. But it helps to have a degree.
You just.
I slid it over. I didn't want it in front of me.
That's how I felt. That's why I switched it because it was like right here.
Bottle. I don't want it to be like taking up my entire body.
Speaking to it like a mic.
It's like,
Back to Tyler.
but it definitely helps because, like at school, I basically did what I'm doing now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of more.
You got a lot of technical training.
They got a lot. Like I reported for my school's TV station, so like that was part of my program.
Yeah.
And that we did that like once a week. Now I do it every day, so it definitely like helped. But like you don't have to. I don't know if it's really hard getting a job if you don't. But I don't know if you have to technically.
Makes sense.
So.
And Mason,
Yes.
what do you do?
Oh, me.
Because we've never talked about it.
we always allude to it, and I realize
we work with kids, and
Yeah.
we leave it at that.
that's all you need to know.
Okay.
It's a little fight ring.
Yeah.
Fight Club.
We
It's not a fight
and I've
club.
named it's not a fight.
I'm a government employee. I do have to specify. It is not a fight club.
There is no fight.
You edit these. You don't have to put that in.
And
I don't like to cuss it out.
he doesn't. But it's good.
There's a lot of stuff.
I have name dropped who I work for, and I wear this cute little wristband. I work for a nonprofit.
He has a crush on his boss.
Whoa, I definitely don't. But I do have a crush on all my coworkers because you guys are the best. Hey, shout out to HLLA. But I work. What?
HLLA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Harlem Lacrosse LA. I work for a nonprofit called Harlem Lacrosse LA. I'm a program director at one of the schools down in Compton. That's where we're based out of, is Compton, California. And it's a youth development organization that has 3 pillars that are focused on social emotional learning, academic achievement, and then lacrosse, which is the sports aspect. So it's really a cool, it's a very cool job. It gets to touch on a lot of things that I love to do, a lot of my strengths, as well as giving me a lot of opportunities to work on my weaknesses. So I love being around kids. I love giving them opportunities to grow and learn in a school setting. I love coaching, and I get to do all those things. And I work with a really, really great team, have really great bosses, really well supported emotionally, financially, all those things.
I was like, he makes a lot of money.
Makes a lot.
It's
not bad.
well funded.
Yeah.
For a nonprofit, it's well funded, and I am very grateful for that. Shout out to CG. Shout out for everybody. Shout out to Mike Levin,
We're just giving a shout out.
CEO.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
None of that.
And then I just
Check out of that.
I just recently got hired as an adjunct professor at Azusa Pacific University to teach in their psychology department. Yeah, so if you're at APU, catch me in the fall. Psychosocial interventions in pediatric healthcare. That's the class I'll be teaching.
Fancy words.
So
That is impressive.
it's fancy words for how do we
Feel.
treat and feel about youth and kids, people in the pediatric healthcare system. Pediatric meaning kids, healthcare meaning hospitals, therapy. Any of those, I know we're treating their bodies. You go to the doctor, I feel sick, I broke something, but it's like, are we taking care of their well-being? Are we taking care of their mental? Are we taking care of them emotionally? So yeah, that's me. And for the Harlem job, I think 4-year degree, and then teaching, you need at least a master's. So that's where I'm at. Keith,
Mason.
what do you do?
I teach.
What do you
Nailed it. What do you teach?
I
Subjects.
Information
level.
Yeah.
high school. I teach at a continuation high school, which means students who have fallen behind in credits, for whatever their individual circumstances are. Disrespectful as kids. Yeah, and I teach sciences. I'm getting my certification in chemistry. Went to school for neuroscience with a minor in chemistry. Do some side hustles because your boy's got to make money because he teaches.
Really?
Yeah, pay our teachers. Although, shout out to UTLA for the raise that I'm expecting next check. Greatly
I'm
appreciated.
getting a bonus in my next check, so I'm gonna upset.
UTLA start giving bonuses. That's what I do right now. I might coach down the road. I've done some personal training in the past. I worked for a nonprofit before I started teaching in education. So I've always kind of been in that wheelhouse around schools and students.
I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
So you both are like teachers, work with kids, do a lot of that stuff. Sorry, I know both your parents did that for a very long time. Do you think that's a big influence?
Yes.
Short answer.
It's kind of a running joke-ish in our family. Both of our parents work in education and have for decades.
Yeah.
A lot of our siblings, we are kind of a lot of our siblings, but a lot of our siblings work with kids or in something that like affects youth. And so I think that was definitely something that like we saw and were taught indirectly from our parents as well as directly. But kind of the running joke is in our family is our parents were always kind of like, don't get into education, like, you know, like the money or like this, like, you know, there's a lot going on and all of us have found our way into education.
Some way or
another.
Shout out Chelsea.
Shout out to Chelsea.
She got out.
I know.
She made
got
it.
out.
And Ode really did not listen to our parents.
Yeah. But it's, I don't know if you have anything you want to say.
Yeah, I feel like
Because you went straight for teaching.
no, I feel like it's funny because I don't feel like I was like that heavily influenced, but then like the opportunity was clear because of them.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Like I didn't go to school for teaching, but I tutored all through high school to make money. So I was like working with kids of all literally kinder through 11th grade
Yeah.
in high school, and then my first job outside of college was trash. And then the next job was they were like, it's a STEM program coordinator. And I was like, I know science. And then it ended up being with 13 schools, like elementary through high school. So it ended up just like basically being teaching anyways. And I was just like, all right. Yeah, like, I guess I'm here now. But I think, they probably translated some skills like communication tools and stuff like that. But I definitely will say like I didn't feel like actively influenced. Like I wasn't like trying to do it because my mom did it. Like I was absolutely not.
Yeah.
This looks miserable. Teachers are exhausted. Here we are.
Yeah.
Dude, all right. Is it true? Yes. I put in a lot of unpaid hours, and I intentionally try not to. So I put in fewer than some of my coworkers don't do jack. Just kidding.
That didn't happen.
I might cut that out. No, there's some teachers who don't go above and beyond, and there's some who definitely do. But I was talking to Raven, and she was saying how just in October, the last 5 years, she's put in each October, except for one of the COVID years, 150 extra hours unpaid.
Wow. Yeah.
Doing like Dia de los Muertos, like she plans like a festival on her own.
Yeah.
So it's like stuff like that where it's like, that's one of like things with teaching is like people say like pay your teachers more and they're like you get summers off and it's like but like the amount of additional hours, even like this semester, like I was planning out an additional like 2 hours per day planning for this semester just to make sure all of my stuff gets done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so even though I'm like I get summers off, it's like but what's going to make up for the other 10 to 12 hours where I'm not being paid every week?
Yeah.
And I'm a lazy teacher.
Self-aware too, apparently.
You know, I'm great at relationships with my students. That's where I shine. Shout out Carvalho for coming to observe me on Tuesday. That is the district superintendent.
Shout out Carvalho, dude.
And I'll try not to mess up, but you won't see this till after, so. I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I feel like it's all of education that's putting in extra hours because Brenda, my girlfriend Brenda, works in education as well. And I have to remind her all the time, like, you only get paid from the hours you're like clocking in and clocking out. Like, all that extra stuff's unpaid.
Yeah.
Don't stress yourself. Leave work at work.
Yeah.
Those are like big things I try to relay to her because she's just such a kind, giving person.
Yeah.
She would dedicate her entire life to like helping these kids that need help.
Shout out Brenda.
Shout out.
You want to get a shout out in?
I'm with her because she improves me because I know I'm about it.
Shutting out Does your sound like you were shouting her out anyway?
Yeah.
She's such a kind, giving
But
person.
but it's crazy like how many hours educators in all facets of like not just teachers but like administrations put in extra hours behind the scenes that like a lot of students don't even see.
Yeah. If I can plug, if any parents are watching, the number one way to make sure your children are successful, through my experience. I've only been teaching for 4 years cumulative, but I was tutoring before that. I was working at a nonprofit in between that. I have like, I counted, I have like 11 years in education.
That's crazy.
It's actually insane, yeah. Read with your kids. It doesn't have to be every day, but as often as you can. That is the absolute, it sounds silly because it's like, oh, like whatever, it's a cute. If your kids can like even kind of read, that sets them up for 4th and 5th grade math, which sets them up for math for the rest of their lives. Yeah. All work after 3rd grade is done using reading. Read with your kids.
That's literally why Brenda's so smart. Her dad reads her every night.
That's all it's crazy that it's like shocking that it's all that is, but like when I was working as a TA for like a 4th grade class, you could tell the difference in the kids who were like exposed to reading earlier on because they start having word problems and stuff. So it's like you don't just fall behind in like English and comprehension, but you start falling behind in math.
Yeah.
Start falling behind in science because they're starting to present all these like scientific vocabulary. Like it's and so and basically like if you don't have 4th, 5th grade math, like how are you gonna do algebra and geometry and like like you're so behind. So it's all just being able to like process and understand, even like the way you can articulate and communicate things.
Yeah.
That's like the number one thing. And like I said, it doesn't have to be every day, but like as often as you can.
Yeah.
20 minutes, twice a week, 3 times a week, game changer.
And I think it's tough too, especially with like, nowadays every kid has a smartphone and they're blah blah, but like there is like, I don't mean to go boomer, but there is a general like fight for attention when it comes to kids. And I know I work at a middle school, and looking at the kids coming out of like COVID, and it's like, oh, like the last time you were in a classroom full time was like you were in 4th grade, and now you're 6th grader. Yeah. And it's like I don't know, and especially like I'm working in entitlement schools and like stuff like that. So it's like there are others, other schools that we had worked at before. It's like, yep, everyone has a laptop, everyone has a iPad, and we can just like education kind of just continue. Obviously, that doesn't mean there's still not bumps, but for these other schools that just didn't have the resources, like kids fell behind, and like social emotionally, like maturity wise, they fell behind a lot. I've seen some kids wild out in ways that I wasn't sure, and y'all know who I'm talking to. But I love you guys for real. But yeah, so it's really interesting trying to combat all those things. But I think that's a good tidbit. That's something that's something you can plan out and you can conquer. Yeah, and I think it's something people are like, it doesn't matter that much. Like if you don't have a good book, but it's like, even if you can't read newspaper. Even if you can't read that well, I'm like, it'll change literally the trajectory of your children's lives.
I read it as a kid.
Say it again?
I don't think
I read the comics as a kid.
Yeah, anything.
Like it's still reading.
I'm not a big book person, but I try to read online articles. Yes. As long as you're reading words on a page.
As long as it's not like text messages, just because we use so much slang and like shorthand. Because I've actually gotten like, I don't teach English, but when I was a TA, like I've helped like correct, and you'll see like the LHR kind of thing, because kids think that like later. Yeah. Like you would see like text written out, because that was a elementary school, so they didn't know the alternative. Yeah. They're like, no, this means later. Like, and technically like language is just how we convey thoughts. So it wasn't incorrect, but it's not like academic. Yeah. I remember doing that with cuz for like because like C to Z. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, like maybe I can just drop the B. Yeah. And just put like cause, and then it's like that's a different word. Yeah. I remember doing that in like maybe like middle school or elementary school or something like that, and I was like, oh no, I've got myself in like emails and being like, oh, this is professional language. These are just thoughts. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, that's the long answer to your question. Shout out. Yeah. Oh.
Always shout out.
Mom and dad. Yes.
I got that one question.
You just went like, What do you guys want to talk about?
You're a podcast, guys. You gotta lead it.
This was me asking you.
This is the leadership.
You can also be like,
A good leader delegates.
Yeah, I feel like we wrapped that up pretty well.
How do we get there on there? So we can answer that if you want.
We kind of just did.
How we
didn't.
I got
How did you?
get to where I am. Mine was like a weird journey. So out of high school, I wanted to major in history, which is super funny because I hate reading and writing.
Oh, that's all that is. Good.
That's literally all it is. So I'm really glad that San Diego State rejected me out of high school.
Shout out,
That would have been a fun like course of action. And then I ended up going to community college, which I highly recommend most people out of high school do.
Currently, in the city of Los Angeles, community college is free. So, yeah, I'm actually enrolled in a couple classes because it's free.
Yeah, why not?
And as a teacher, you can get a pay bump.
Lifelong learners.
Yeah. And so in
Shout out
community
me.
college, community college is great. I figured out what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I learned that I was into aviation. And then from that, when I got into a university majoring in aviation, I knew it was the right choice because one of my classes, we literally took apart a single cylinder lawnmower engine in groups of like 6 or 8 people, inspected everything, put it back together. If there was any like broken gaskets, we'd replace parts and stuff.
Yeah.
And then we'd run the motor, and if it was successfully able to run for 10 minutes, we passed the large project for that class for the semester, essentially.
Yeah.
And we were the 3rd group done, 2nd group to run their engine for 10 minutes, and I was like, what a feeling. I was sad when class got canceled. I've never
Was it
felt...
COVID?
No, like
Just like
the
in
teachers
class.
were like,
Oh,
"Hey,
like
yeah, we don't need to come to class today," or like something came up for him, and I'd genuinely be sad that I didn't get to go to class that day, which was weird because I don't normally love going to school like that.
Yeah, that's when you
So
know
it was a
it's
really reassuring
Yeah.
feeling to be like, wow, I really wanted to go, and
Yeah.
now I can't. So
That's really cool.
Well,
And you kind of always wanted to.
like, so just growing up, just playing sports, like I started playing baseball at 3 years old, and just kind of went into that journey, and sports kind of was just around me all the time.
Yeah.
I played every sport like imaginable, like with you guys a lot of the time too. And then when I got like 13, 14, it was just baseball all year round. Just being around that all the time kind of influence of like, okay, like this is my life, this is what I'm very interested in, like it's my main goal. And then went to community college, played there. Shout out GCC for both Vaqueros.
Grand Canyon.
no,
Glendale.
I didn't go to college.
I don't know, man.
We're
Glendale.
both
Whatever.
we're both Vaqueros.
GC group chat, community.
Just played there, and then
Yo, shout out Andy Reid for the field, the football.
we're doing a lot of shout outs.
Scoreboard.
Shout out scoreboards.
Yeah.
We're just doing a lot of shout outs.
Shout out baseball. Honestly, like who?
I'm like the only person that's like a baseball guy.
I've been to Dodgers games.
But just I think just being around that as much as I was as a kid, just had I was just kind of like, this is my life, so I'm like, why not keep going with that? And then when I graduated community college, I was like, okay, well, I kind of gotta figure out what I want to do.
Yeah.
When I transfer, and I was like, well, sports, like what can I do with sports? There's sports management, there's sports broadcasting, there's PT schools, like all these other things. But the thing that drew me there was that we had a newspaper at Glendale, and I actually started a broadcasting department for that newspaper. So like we do podcasts and we like talk about current events in sports. And I was like, I liked that. Like it was fun, it was interesting. It just kind of came to me. It was easy. And so just kind of moving into that, and then getting my degree, and just kind of
Where at?
San Francisco State. Shout out the Gators.
Did you go online?
No, I was there for like 6 months. I was there for like a year, and then graduated. So
Okay, I was like, I don't remember you living in San Francisco.
I lived there for a little bit. But it was also like very challenging there too because COVID hit. So I was like, I didn't get to use the studio time as much as other people. Like, we just got in the studio, but I think that my strength because like I shot on my phone and still
Right.
good
Yeah.
quality, and I'm like, okay, you give me a camera, that's like 10 times easier. So I'm like, sure, like let's do it. And I was like, I'd have to stay up at like 11 o'clock wait till my house was quiet so I could record and then edit.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't have to do that. So I know I can edit in like 30 minutes. So
Yes.
just like,
Sound studios.
Yeah.
love it. But yeah, that's just kind of how just like I love it. I've been around sports my whole life. Love it. It's very interesting to me. Just kind of comes naturally.
It's very cool.
I realized I left out a pivotal part of my bit there. From Glendale. So Glendale has, they own 2 small aircraft. And while I was doing my private pilot ground training class, we had the option to do a discovery flight, which is you go in a plane with an instructor
And find
and
new islands.
you discover
You discover America.
again.
Originals.
The third time. But so you basically go up and you get to co-pilot
I
a
think I have to
small.
take out the word.
Yeah, you get to co-pilot a small aircraft, which
Airplane.
aircraft it flies in the air.
UFO.
Yeah, UFO.
They're real. Confirmed.
Yeah.
What do
Shout
they call
out
them now?
government.
Identified.
But I've heard that a lot of people, when they take that discovery flight, they learn really quickly whether flying is a passion of theirs or a fear. It like really divides people like that because people are either super uneasy up there, they're like, oh, we're gonna die, or they're like, oh my god, this is the coolest thing I've ever done. It feels like a roller coaster when you hit some turbulence and you drop 100 feet
No.
when you're
I don't gotta go up there.
at 9,000 feet. 100 feet's not gonna do anything. I've stalled it.
Yeah, it'll scare me. That's what I won't die, but I'll be like,
I do stall training where I lose lift and I drop 600 feet before I recover the plane, and like
I just
it's
came
a
to
trip. It's
land,
so cool.
land.
The scariest part's landing a plane, though. You really learn whether
Can't
you love
miss.
life or not. Yeah, because you're like literally pointing the plane at the ground the last second you pull up, and you're like, I really want to live, so I'm gonna land this plane correctly. Yeah. But yeah,
That's
that
pretty
discovery flight.
I mean, that's not if you want to land again.
That discovery flight like changed my life completely. So
That's awesome.
try things when you're in community college, new experiences. I think that really opens your mind and
Yeah.
can help you find what you love, even though you didn't know you loved it.
And now it's free because
Now, in LA, that's pretty,
And
yeah.
that's, but that's
But
just
like-
a huge. That's a huge thing.
it also community college is huge. Like that's just a giant. It saved so much money,
Yeah.
Especially in California.
especially that. And then like, you could try, like he said, you could try new stuff without having to go to a 4-year
Yeah.
and spend 2 to 3 times as much on the same classes.
Too much.
Where it's just like, it's a great opportunity. It's a great chance, and
Yeah.
like, it's the same as college. Like
It
you're
is
still
college.
like getting a college education. I'm like,
Get a degree.
shout out the AA
Yeah.
degree, baby. Have
Alcoholics Anonymous.
I
somebody
had
here.
poli-sci teachers at my
Associates.
community college who were teaching
What's that,
UCLA.
right?
Arts.
Oh, alright, so
You got an AS or an AA.
My community college poli-sci teacher was also a teacher at Pepperdine and UCLA. He taught the same
Yeah.
course at both those, and I was like, I'm getting a Pepperdine UCLA education for this class.
Yes.
I had
But I'm paying $46 a unit.
I took a music appreciation class with somebody who was in the LA orchestra or Philharmonic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taught at USC, and I was like, it was just a
And it's just
prereq,
like
but I'm
nice.
like, I learned a lot about music, and I was
Yeah.
like, the influence. I learned about Gregorian monks and their singing,
I
which is
used
like,
to study too. Some of their chants.
which is just like super interesting. So I'm like, I would never be exposed to that
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
never took that class. Like, and then learning the history about it. It's a different experience that is really cool because I like music, and like we ended up going from like Gregorian monks to modern music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is just like
Such
that's
a
a
different
huge
transition.
shot, and like so that's really cool. But I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So we appreciate that.
I'll say, yeah, explore whatever opportunities you are given, which is something we've talked about. before.
Yeah. That's something we've talked
Don't
about.
be afraid to take that leap.
Yeah.
Yeah, all I wanted to say was that when we were talking about how it's important to try things, how you got to take that flight, how you took advantage of what your school had to offer, and like, okay, you had a newspaper, okay, let's do broadcasting. those easily could have been things that like maybe they just didn't work out, and you're like, okay, well, like that's not exactly what I wanted, but at least you know now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the harder things just about life in general is just not knowing what you could have done.
Yeah.
And so it's important, especially while you're young, just like you guys did, just like we had in different opportunities, to just take advantage of opportunities when they're presented to you. If they're not super expensive, they're not going to be super taxing, but if it's something that's hard or it's uncomfortable, it's, you know, just outside your wheelhouse. And we've talked about this before, but like, try things.
Being
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's the only way to grow.
Dude, my favorite band says a quote that I remember, in the hardest times we grow the most. And
Yeah.
I love that.
100%.
Like, live by that.
Yeah, and it's really, yeah, I think, I've talked to you about it, actually I've never talked to you about it. Season opportunity, like one thing that I was talking to Scar about last night actually is like how I've worked, I think 17 or 18 different jobs
Yeah.
in like 10 years, and I've had some jobs for like multiple years at a time just because I've worked
You were a
different jobs.
roofer at one point.
I was a
Like,
roofer, to
like-
like interior painting,
just like,
I
this
worked
is-
at a bagel shop, yeah. like,
Yeah, I was like, you went to school
I
for
was a
neuroscience
bouncer.
too. I'm
yeah, I
like,
worked in a lab.
I was like, yeah. So
But some of that stuff, like similarly, like helped me figure out what I knew. Part of why I like didn't pursue neuroscience super heavy outside of college is after working in a lab for 2 years, I was like, oh my gosh, love what I'm learning, hate lab work, hate research. Like
and that's what your degree would
Can't.
be doing.
yeah, almost exclusively. If I wasn't teaching, I'd be doing research, and there's not a lot of in between.
And now you're teaching anyway. So
I know I'm teaching anyways. But with less school, to be a teacher in neuro, you'd have to be like a doctor. So
Yeah.
6 years fewer.
And hundreds grand fewer.
Hey. But not crazy to actually. I think all my debt's paid off. So
love that.
Nice.
not my car debt, but like
Or how much?
the college debt. Yeah.
There's supposed to be like student loan forgiveness, but
I just
For
started.
nonprofits
Yeah.
and stuff. I don't know if it works for teachers, but I
Is
have.
that actually going through that student loan forgiveness?
wait a minute.
Not
The
the.
Supreme Court.
There's a few different ones.
Okay.
There's a program.
Also, it's federal loan. My loan was private, so there was actually some forgiveness during COVID. And they paused payments, but mine was not a federal loan, so I didn't stop paying. Like Chelsea texted me, she was like, "Isn't this awesome?" And I was like, "This doesn't affect me."
You're like,
I still do every month.
Or
Are you through Sally Mae?
Yeah,
Same.
dude, she's a cold-hearted woman.
Terrible interest rates.
Yeah, she's like,
She
"But
does not.
we'll give you the money."
You have the money, but
Yeah.
it's going to cost your soul.
Yeah, I hope you have
another
kids.
reason to go to community college.
Yeah.
Less student debt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, mine's all flight school.
that's fine.
Mine's all post college.
Yeah, stuff like that. Well, and I've also talked about honest, like seeking out scholarships. Like I was able to get in-state tuition even though I went out of state, which saved me $16K per year automatically. So that's $64,000.
That's so
not
much.
including interest. Right, saved
So much
automatically.
money.
And then I got grants.
Yeah.
That knocked down my tuition even more. So it was like, even when I graduated, like I had friends who graduated from the same school as me, like over $100K in debt, hundreds of thousands, because they were using it to pay for like housing or using it to pay for food. Whereas I was like working, so I wasn't using it for that stuff. So I was taking loans.
You're
on
just
that.
using it for
And then I
school.
was using in-state stuff too, and then I was using my grants. So you can find stuff. It does take a little bit of research, but what I always like tell like my students is like it might take you 8 hours of research, unpaid, which is a lot, to find that grant. But if that grant's $5,000, it's like
Well, you're gonna
it was worth your 8 hours of research and your 1 hour essay.
Yeah.
That's very true.
That's something I wish I knew coming out of high school was like financial knowledge.
Oh yeah.
Like how to do taxes, like what I should like how to make a
Like,
budget on Excel. Like how to budget your money. If
I use
it would talk-
a Google spreadsheet for my
I'm trying to get into that now because Brenda's doing it, and I'm like, wow, you're really on top of all your expenses for the month, and you
Yeah.
have no questions about
My brain.
money. And I'm like, I wish I was that
Yeah.
organized, but I strive to get there, and I
Yeah.
think it's like a good goal to have.
Yeah, I will say it's a pain in the neck because like literally I take pictures of all my receipts and I have like a reminder to like plug them in at the end of each day, and that's like an annoying step. But at the same time, it's like okay, I know how much I can afford and how much I'm saving, and yeah,
Too.
so that kind of stuff is cool.
What do we wish we knew?
What do you
That was
wish?
a good transition into that.
Yeah, so that's one of the things you wished that you knew was like the financial stuff, and I'm heavy on that. Like in my classroom, I do try to teach to some degree, like yo, figure out what credit is, figure out what interest means, because that's like everyone's like, what is math for? I'm like, dude, you can calculate what your mortgage is gonna be for the rest of your life. Like you can figure stuff out. They're all trying to buy cars in high school. I'm just like, you don't even know what that loan means. But Ty, Jay, Tyler, Mason, What are things you guys wish you knew? It can be regarding school, it can be regarding your career, it can just be like, especially like for you, like, yeah, you haven't been up here before, so Mason's talked a little bit more. Like, yeah, stuff you wish you knew pre-adulthood. Tell us about the stage in life you're at. Should have asked you that first, but whatever.
Yeah, it's a very interesting stage in my life because growing up in LA, it's a big city, top 2 market, so I'm like, there's not a lot of like.
Are we two?
Good, yeah. Top 2, not 1.
New York. It's top 2, not 1.
No one says top 5 unless they're 5th.
And so growing up in this market, it's just like hard to get a job there, and it's just really tough. So I'm in a smaller market, but it's still the same job as people here. It's just busy, it's work factor, busyness, like that kind of thing. But I live in a completely different state on my own, kind of like just doing everything. Like there's nobody telling me, hey, like do this so you can do this. It's just kind of like, well, you're gonna make choices and you're gonna have to deal with those consequences later. It's just kind of, it's very interesting because I went from living with my parents because of COVID and everything to, hey, like you're gonna be a 20-hour drive from your home and nobody's gonna be there to tell you kind of like what to do.
Yeah. To clean or to cook or to.
Yeah, it's like I'm just like you have to like clean your apartment like regularly because it's like if you don't, there's nobody else to do it for you.
Yeah.
Which is like that's just good habits growing up. Which,
Yeah.
Like you can have, it's just still.
My first apartment was disgusting.
It's just you still feel like okay, like wow, like if I really don't do this, I don't do this. Like if you don't do your dishes, you can't. What are you gonna eat off? Like you know what I mean? You don't.
That's the next financial bracket we're getting to.
And then
Doing will do it for you.
This is my like first job. I've done other jobs, but this is like my first career job. It's kind of like you work 40 hours a week, and then you still have to do 40 hours plus, and then you still have to do all your responsibilities.
Right.
So that's kind of like, wow, like it just kind of opens your eyes to being an adult. And like it's kind of where I'm at. I've gotten a lot better since I've gotten there, just because you experience it, you live it, and so like you kind of build off of that. But it's a very interesting thing to think like where I was 5 years ago. I like to think back there of when I'm kind of freaking out. It's kind of like, well, 5 years ago I had no idea I was gonna be here.
Yeah.
And now I'm here, so like I don't know what's gonna happen in 5 years, but like we're gonna be okay. Like and so that's happened a lot just because I'm in a kind of transition period in my life.
Well, I feel like that's happened to me too. It's like I've talked about I like to make like 2-year, 5-year plans, but every time I do them, they are such a loose.
Yeah.
Like 5 years.
You're like I'd like to do this, but
like 5 years ago, I think I was living in Pittsburgh, and then 5 years before that, I was like starting college, and 5 years before that, like I was so like I've been just like moving around a lot. Like 10 years ago, I was like I'm definitely gonna be a doctor or do research and da-da-da. And then 5 years ago, I was just like, absolutely not. I hate all of these things. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And now I have like direction again. And like so much happens.
Yeah.
But that loose plan, I think, can help still. But yeah, it's like you don't know where you'll be.
Yeah, I'm like, especially with my job, it's like everywhere has sports, everywhere has a TV.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes. And we're getting into social media too. Like a lot of stations are getting into digital and social media. So it's like, everywhere I go has that, and that's another thing. It's like everyone always asks me, it's like, where do you want to go, or do you want to go back home when you're doing it? I'm like, I don't know yet. Like, I'd love to go experience the company.
Drive back. I'm so happy.
Oh no, I know. You could end up there.
It's just like I'd love to like.
That's a dream.
One thing I'd love to do is this job gives me an opportunity to move around. Because a lot of the times it's like a 2-year contract. It's like every 2 years I could be living in a new place. So like that is kind of cool. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of people's jobs are like that.
Yeah.
And I can still pull
military.
That's in some form of like enslavement, though.
Signed up for slavery there.
Yeah.
Great benefits.
Was it that feudal labor or whatever it's called? Indentured servitude.
Oh yeah.
Everything is consequential.
Yeah, whether it's good or bad consequences. Like,
yeah.
It's consequences.
Like in high school, if I messed up or whatever, it could be my parents' problem. It could be like nobody's problem. I could just not deal with it. Yeah. And it's like,
like here, like
no, it's just me now.
I was like, I'm gonna do it, and it's either gonna be really good or really bad.
Yeah.
We can learn how important support systems are, because outside in the real world, no one
Yeah, that was what our
Except
main,
for us.
which is true. I was gonna make a joke, but it is true. We did talk about that. That was our previous episode. Was talking about like support systems, relationships, friendships, and stuff.
Now we're here.
We're here. Yeah. So anything
Beautiful.
that y'all wish the world better prepared you, parents better prepared you, life, school that you wish you knew. It can be real specific or real not.
For me, internships are huge.
That makes
Applying to them really soon. I was also like in a weird time in college because it was COVID, so like
Sure.
I was just like I also like lived in LA. And I was like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm like, no, I went to school in the Bay, but lived in LA.
Yeah.
So it's just like a weird.
I can move there.
It's just like it's a weird. It was like a weird time, but like internships are super important. Volunteering, like doing that stuff, it looks great on a resume. And try to get in your field. Just apply.
I think that's huge. If there is something you're pursuing, if you can't get a job, obviously you can get a job and get paid, but if you can't volunteering or working in it,
Because it just exposes you to it.
exactly. Well, and it so it goes on a resume. So it's like now when you apply 2 years from now for whatever job, it's like, hey, look, I've done this now.
And then sometimes where they're just like, okay, like I know your face, I know how
Yeah.
who you are, and I'm like, hey, like you don't work here, like
Yeah.
that's how some of the stuff happens. Like
Yeah.
that's our internships. Like we've tried to hire some of them, and, like they've gone to different places, but it's like they got job
They're
offers out
familiar and
of it,
stuff,
like
yeah.
you know what I mean. So that's kind of interesting. So that's one big thing that I've noticed, like looking back, that I wish I did better.
Yeah.
But
Something I learned recently is that like comparison is the thief of joy. I've heard that.
Yeah, I use that. Yeah.
And so like
Don't say it again.
comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it up there.
Yeah. And it's just like everyone goes at their own pace. There's no set like path for anyone. Most of the adults that we look at they look like they have their life together. If you actually like look into their life, it's a mess. It's just as messy as yours, but they like.
That helped me forgive my parents as I grew up and I was like, oh, no one knows what's going on?
I think it's not growing up. It's like I thought adults knew what they're doing.
No, you're 100%
Yeah, adults don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're still all just trying to figure it out. That's life is just like, how can I get through this as least complicated as possible?
the thing with that is like, it's really, really easy to compare yourself just because you're just around, like, especially the people you're around.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Social, school,
parents,
whatever.
but it's like,
Our parents compare
Why
us.
aren't you more like...
Literally,
it was you
us.
two.
It
was always you guys.
Guys don't have to have their parents tell them 5 times to clean their room.
Dude, if it makes you feel better, like all through middle school and high school, my dad would get calls from like my parents, and then
Your
they
dad would get calls from your parents?
I mean, from my teachers, and they'd be like, "He wants to talk to you," and he would just be like, "There's a point I remember in 8th grade, meaning it had happened so much in 6th and 7th that he'd be like, "Can you just stop?" Like he was just exhausted. I don't know what. Can you just for the rest of the day stop?
But I just know comparing is like really easy and it's really hard not to compare. But it's like a big thing that I've noticed is like everyone's just kind of in different stages of their life.
Yeah.
Like at this table, we're all at different stages. Like me and Mason are very similar in age. We're at different stages in our life. You guys are at different stages in your life. But it's like I've noticed a lot with our friend group whenever we go like which is like we went to Seattle. We were just like
Shout out to the boys.
shout out to
Shout out
the
to the
boys.
boys.
Smash game.
Like the game.
Super Smash Brothers.
Super
That's-
Smash Bros.
That was our thing. Sorry.
I
But,
remember
like,
those
we
parties. Those are sweet parties.
They were fun.
We always talk about. We always just like kind of talk about like where you at in your life, and it's always awesome to see like where we are steps wise, and like it's always supportive.
Yeah.
So like it's nice to have that support group where you're like, hey, like that's okay that you're there. Like you're just gonna keep going. Like just don't be stagnant. And
Yeah.
that's okay.
And that's something we invested a lot in our friendships, like last episode talking about, is like being there for each other. And also being able to like hold each other accountable, but also being able to like hold space for each other and be like, yeah man, like we're all figuring it out. It's actually funny you were saying that like we're at similar ages and they're at similar ages. I'm like, we're at similar ages.
That's
Yeah,
weird to
we're
think about. It's like
We're all between 25 and 27, 28.
After high school, a 3-year age gap.
Happy birthday to me that none of them wish me.
Well,
Time.
hey, happy birthday to them.
Oh, happy birthday.
It's on the same day.
I was like literally the same birthday, but like, hey, they forgot his birthday.
Definitely
That's
called
cool.
you on your birthday.
You did. Wow, my parents didn't.
I shot you a text. You did.
I'll
say
I
I
threw
shot
you
you
a
a text.
birthday party.
More or less, I threw me a birthday party.
You were there.
I hope so.
I think one thing that I wish I knew, we've kind of touched on it on other podcasts. We've touched on it a little bit today, but just like trying to take advantage of opportunities when you're young. And it's easy to say when you're young, but it's also knowing that like wherever you're at now, it's the perfect time to start.
Yeah.
Take advantage of those opportunities and doing what you can. We have this like common notion like, you know, when you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and I don't think that's true. I think it's harder, but I don't think you can't. People can always improve. And just specifically when I'm thinking about like school and like sports or clubs or whatever, like just trying things.
Also, young is very relative.
Yeah,
Because
100%.
I'm like, I work with like people who have been in the industry for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is like my third year here, and I'm like, wow, like
Yeah.
I feel old just because I'm comparing myself, like again,
To your
comparing,
younger self and
just
yeah.
comparing like that, and it's just like, no, like I'm still like young. Like if I wanted to do a completely new industry, I'm not even 30.
I'll say people
Like I'm not
switch in
30,
their 40s
I'm not
and then they work
married,
there for
I'm just
25
like,
years.
yeah. So it's like that's just hard to like think about in perspective, just because it's so far out, I guess.
Yeah.
But like, that, like to your point, like try new stuff while you're young. You know, like
Yeah.
I think it's never too late to like develop a new skill. I know for me sometimes I like look and I'm like, particularly in school and like especially going through higher education, like I was learning how to study like when I was like 23,
Yeah,
24, because I didn't.
That was my biggest offset in college. Is I didn't know how to study. So if I didn't get it immediately, I was like, I don't know what's
because I just
I
didn't.
didn't have to study at Granada, and then college was like,
Yeah.
you can pass the test without studying.
That's cute, little boy.
like boom, my job's
Rude
doing that.
awakening.
Well, like my job's doing that really good. Well, sorry, speaking on TV too. That's crazy. And that's part of it. Is like I have to be like I get held accountable by thousands and thousands and thousands of people on everything I do.
Flex.
Sorry.
It's a small town.
It's a small town. It's not millions. Just
No, it's lit. Dude,
like
it's
a lot of
it's a hundred
people.
grand.
It's a decent people. Decent amount of people. And like I get held accountable, so I have to like know how to do. I like to do it. I know what to do. I have to do research. I have to study the topic if I don't know it before, because sometimes I get assigned topics. I don't know a lot about the like housing market right now, and I've had to do several stories on it where it's like, hey, tell people what's going on. So I'm like, okay, I have to take a quick little course in the housing market so I can tell people what's going on now. So like that's kind of cool that like I've learned that really well of just trying to get like basically break down the most important stuff.
Yeah.
And like that's studying kind of like that. That's what it made me think of. So.
But yeah, that's just and we had a whole episode on that. But like you're never too late to grow. And I just being 25, looking back, and like I wish I took advantage of more opportunities. Not in a regretful way, but just like now I know where I'm at and in the future to continue to try to take advantage.
I think that's like one of the things like that makes humans is that we're always able to grow,
Absolutely,
and adapt, and
absolutely.
That's like kind of one of the answers to like why are we here? It's to constantly just improve ourselves, whatever we want.
Yeah. There's one thing I did want to mention in regards to like getting stuff done and like seizing opportunities.
And that battery's going to go.
Is it?
Get to that.
There's this thing that Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, Troy from Community said. But he was saying how like a lot of people. This is like before he was as big as he is, but he was definitely like pretty big still.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, like people will ask me, like how did you get here? What kind of camera do you use? Like this and that. I want to do what you do. And he was like, no, you don't. He was like, if you really wanted to do what I would do, you would do it with whatever you already had. You'd use your phone, you'd use your mom's or whatever. He's like, it's not the equipment that I have that makes my skill level and sets my skill set. He's like, I used whatever I had. Like you talked about like recording on your phone. It's like, I used whatever I had, and eventually people liked what I had to offer, and then I was able to afford more and better and more and better. He was like, I wasn't waiting till I had the best thing. And I do think about that with like I think people in general, I think students in general, honestly, like even like a little bit like this setup, like we have a 3-foot cord that barely reaches our microphone, and like you guys can't see it, but that's why the mic's always in the shot. It's like we don't have a long enough cord, and but like stuff like that. But it's like sometimes you just gotta get, if there's something you say that you want, like I'm not one to like say like you do want it or you don't want it, but if you really want it, don't wait for the opportunity, don't wait for the
Try
tool.
not to make excuses.
Yeah.
That's
I think that's don't make excuses, because there's circumstantial excuses. It's like, oh, they only offer this in Texas and I don't have a car. Like, okay, that's a very real excuse.
You're just like, I don't have the setup I want. I'm like,
you can take steps to make it happen. You just gotta set up a path.
Yeah. Well, one of the dudes I follow on TikTok that I'm on for some reason, but he revealed his studio, and he's got over 1 million followers now. And his studio is literally in the corner of his apartment. He put a desk and put posters up, so it looks like it's part of a bigger studio because he made it really cohesive. And he was like, "No, I'm literally working on it's like a space smaller than this table." And he was able to get 1 million followers off it. And he was like, "Yeah, obviously I don't show you guys this because you don't need to see my whole apartment for the videos I do." Yeah. He's like, "Yeah, it's not a huge space. You just do the thing." So there is something you're hesitant about. You don't know if you have the best stuff. You're not worried about how you're worried about how it's gonna look. You're not trying to start. Even we've talked about weightlifting or training for sports or whatever. I don't have the best coach, or my team sucks, or I don't have the nicest ball or the cleats, or it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Get started, get better, and a lot of those things will come. I always think about for the sports thing specifically, that lacrosse tournament we went to. I always had a okay stick in high school. It was never the $300 whatever.
Yeah.
The black one.
And I used to have a $40 stick, which when sticks are hundreds of dollars. 40 isn't crazy, you know. But I remember eventually I was always practicing, and we went to a tournament where I won a Paul Rabel custom sticking as an MVP, and it wasn't because my stick before that was really good. It was because I worked my butt off. I had some $30 cleats from clearance, and there was we did have a lot of opportunities.
RJ's great at stringing. Shout out RJ.
Just wanted to shout out. But if I
shout out the Claymores.
Shout out! Wow. Wow, I haven't thought about that team name in a very long time. I still know it. I actually stopped myself from saying it. But I think that's what I would leave you guys with, is something I wish I knew even earlier, and something I don't think I applied in all areas. I was able to apply it in sports really quickly, really well, but I don't think I applied it in education. I don't think I applied it in career. I don't think I applied it in relationships. Was seizing the opportunity with whatever you have. If it's a person who's immature, all right, well, what do I know? How can I help this conversation along? I know they're going to react, so how can I approach them differently? Using those opportunities instead of just being the reactionary, we can't talk. There's a lot of in-betweens with everything.
Yeah.
The word's not really black and white. There's a lot of gray area.
Yeah.
Where it's okay, you gotta just get in the gray and
every really successful person is just I made it work with what I had.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna be easy. Nobody it's never gonna be easy.
You gotta.
And if it is, take advantage of that even more. You know what I mean?
And find the next step. If it's too easy, what's the next thing? If you can put more on your plate. And obviously we know there's a lot on your plate. There's families, there's relationships, but whatever. You take everything. But I think that's what I'd separate this with. I love that.
I've heard in an interview, someone was interviewing people towards the end of their lives, in nursing homes and stuff, and they're what is your biggest what is something that you wish you knew when you were younger? And they were I have so many regrets of things that I wish I did, and so I wanted someone to just be do it, and if you fail, oh well, you tried, you found out. But knowing is so much better than thinking back when you're in a nursing home. Could I have done that?
Yeah.
I'd rather know that I could or couldn't than think later on in life, oh, I should have. Yeah.
Seize your opportunities.
No regrets.
No regrets. Not even one letter. But shout out
Jason Sudeikis.
If you want to come on, man, we're here. But y'all, thank you guys for being here.
Shout out to the Greens.
Shout out to Tyler, Dylan and Greene. Okay, whatever. We'll help when we leave. Thank you, Mason, for being here.
Hey, thank you, Keith.
You know, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Gotta check out the podcast. It's a great podcast.
It's a great podcast.
We appreciate y'all tuning in, of course, to the Anders Brother podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We enjoyed making it. Shout out to the new table, new setup. But yeah, appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you catching us.